welcome to this week's Ask Shelly Show. My name is Shelly Fan. I am your emotional intelligence expert coming to you live this beautiful Tuesday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, to talk about the judgment that sexual freedom brings for our female writer. So let me just make sure that everyone knows exactly who I am. Again, my name is Shelly Fan, CEO and owner of Ask Shelly Consulting, which is an emotional intelligence firm where we provide psychoeducation to corporations to bring them to their peak performance. I am, again, a licensed psychotherapist here in the state of Florida. I have the privilege of working with individuals, married couples, and families, bringing them to their next level through the provision of evidence-based therapeutic intervention. So what it is I do, I help people break maladaptive behavioral patterns, thought patterns. I am a motivational and empowerment speaker, operating in purpose, ordained minister, and I have the privilege of coming before you live every Tuesday to share a question that has been asked of me in hopes that you can add something to your wellness toolbox. It may be a tool that doesn't work for you. It may not be applicable to your struggle or challenge, but it may be for someone else. And so I humbly ask that you click that share button. You never know whose line of sight or whose line of hearing this live will land in. And so it's about each one teach one. I need each and every person within the sound of my voice to engage. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your experience is. Your feedback is valuable. Oftentimes, our writers are going back into the lives, they're reading the comments, and they are gleaning and growing off of your feedback. So let's keep it engaged. Make sure that you are sharing what it is you believe, your thoughts, your experiences, because it's just so valuable. And I don't want you to stay quiet. You can observe all you want. Just make sure that you are equally engaged. We are talking about judgment that sexual freedom brings this writer. And we're going to get into the question right now. Let me know who you are and where you are tuning in from. Hello, Marjorie from Port Charlotte, coming to Port Charlotte by way of Brooklyn. Thank you so much for joining us over here on Facebook. You're also on Instagram, or maybe you just were on Instagram, and it says here, that's true. Why, oh, why? She was talking about why, oh, why the judgment with sexual freedom. What is sexual freedom? I would love for us to get into that. Hello, Jackie, who is representing, is it Hollywood, and coming to us by way of Queens, New York. What's up? New York is in the building. All right, so here we go. We are about to highlight the question that we are going to be discussing today. The Ask Shelly Show is about talking about people's challenges, their inquiries, their struggles, the things that they have overcome, in hopes that it helps somebody else. That is what it's all about. The feedback that I'm providing is just feedback. This is not therapy. You think you need therapy, want therapy. You may not want it, but need it. Whatever that is for you, you can reach out to me, and I'll have my contact information at the end of this live to assure that you are not entering 2021 the same. None of us are entering 2021 the same. It's not about competition. The only competition we have is who we were yesterday. All right. So let's get into it. I want to know your thoughts. Now, this question is long. It was an email. When you send your questions through my website, www.askshelly.com, there is a limit on the words that you could enter. However, you can email info@askshelly.com, and this was an email, and I am so excited to get into it. Hello, Alkia. Thank you so much for tuning in, my prayer warrior partner. Love you. Thank you. She's tuning in from Facebook. We're talking about sexual freedom and the judgment that it brings. Are we ready for the question? Are we ready for the question? I feel like I'm running a meeting, a sorority meeting. Are we ready for this week's question? Here we go. And it reads, and it's long, so I need you to take notes. So Coffee for Your Soul here on Instagram says, I'm a Freak, and we thank you so much for joining today. I'm a Freak, and if you need any extra help with that, you can connect with me at www.askshelley.com. If being a freak does not cause you any distress, then we're all good. But thank you so much for tuning in. Here's the question. Dear Ask Shelley, I'm not really sure if this is a question, but take notes. Here we go. I love your show and love your feedback, which is the only reason why I'm writing in. And remember that it's not just my feedback, it's our feedback, our community's feedback. I love your show and love your feedback, which is the only reason why I'm writing in. Just had to read that again. I am a 38-year-old brown and accomplished woman who knows what she wants. I am driven, certain, and second to none. I am writing in because I am tired of being judged for being sexually free. Let me explain. I grew up being taught that girls stay quiet, dress cute, cross their legs, and keep their cookies to themselves. I was raised in a very conservative Hispanic home, and I adopted that line of thinking until about the age of 35, which is the year I got divorced and was set free. I was in a marriage where sex was for him and not for me. My sexual pleasure was not prioritized, and I believed sex was overrated. That is an entirely different story. One thing led to another, and I became disgusted with the expectations my ex-husband had of me and the continuity in not having my expectations and needs met. Long over short, we got divorced, and during my healing process, which included intense therapy, I found myself and therefore found my freedom. I know what I want and I know what I do not want. I don't want to be in a relationship. I don't want to be married right now. I love sex with no strings attached. I love sex without limitations. I want to be naked, free, adventurous. I want to try new things. I love oral sex. I know the positions that serve me. I know what I want and like, and she puts that in all caps. I do not need to be convinced that there is something wrong with where I am at in life. I have never said that I do not need a man. I am merely saying that I do not want that right now. I love dating multiple men, having casual relationships. I am honest about where I stand. I protect myself. I am very clear in my interactions with men and am often perceived as loose. I have been called a whore, as if my sexual freedom suggests I have no moral code. I am exhausted with having to defend my life choices. I am exhausted with men who try to lock me down, even though I have been clear about where I stand. I even had a man ask me if I was molested or raped as a child because I love sex so much and did not want him to stay the night after sex. Like, really? So I have to have some type of sexual trauma to explain that this is who I am, and then question mark with a bunch of exclamation points, and that's it. Not really hearing the question in that, but what a load for us to process. What a load for us to process. So what are we saying? How are we feeling, Instagram? How are we feeling, Facebook? I will read that again. It's pretty long, but I want to read it again for those who are logging on a little bit later. This is a woman who's writing in and saying, I am just tired of being judged for being sexually free. She's saying that she's been in a marriage before, right? She's been in a marriage before. It served him, not her. She's tired of it. She had intense therapy. She has found herself, her sexual freedom. She knows what she wants, and this is what she wants. This is where I'm at. Why is it a problem? And so Marjorie says, nothing wrong with being a freak. I'm assuming that you are referring to Coffee for Your Soul's comment here on Instagram, because she didn't necessarily say that she was. And someone said to me, why is sexual freedom equivalent to freakdom? Why does sexual freedom mean, or someone who is liberal in their sexual beliefs, why is that considered someone who is a freak? And that's a really good question. Don't know if we have the time or if you have an answer to that, right? So let's see right here. Marjorie on Facebook says, nothing wrong with being a freak as long as there are mutual consulting adults involved and no one is harmed. Marjorie continues to say, she's healthy and responsible. She doesn't need to pick up anyone else's baggage. All right. Alkia says, at least you're honest and know where you are and you're upfront with your partners. I thought that was good too, Alkia. I mean, she's saying, I'm honest, I'm upfront. This is where I'm at, you know. And she also says, she also implies that this may not be where she is all the time, because she even talks about, I don't want to be married right now. She's saying that I'm not declaring I don't need a man. She's not doing that either, right? And so I am hearing a lot of declarations, a lot in her statement that are really, where I'm not seeing any maladaptivity in what she's saying, but we're going to read it again. And I'd like you to continue to share what you are thinking and feeling. Where does this judgment come from? Is it wrong to be sexually free as a woman? She's 38, she's divorced. She didn't mention anything about any children, so we don't know about that. She's saying she's being honest. Let's go back to the question and let's get into this. So she says, Dear Ash Shelley, I love your show and love your feedback, which is the only reason why I'm writing in. I am a 38-year-old brown and accomplished woman who knows what she wants. I am driven, certain, and second to none. She's confident, y'all. She is confident. And she says, I am writing in because I am tired of being judged for being sexually free. Let me explain. I grew up being taught that girls stay quiet, dress cute, cross their legs, and keep their cookies to themselves. How many of us have been raised to believe that as well? I was raised in a very conservative Hispanic home, and I adopted that line of thinking until about the age of 35, which is the year I got divorced and was set free. I was in a marriage where sex was for him and not for me. My sexual pleasure was not prioritized, and I believe sex was overrated. That is an entirely different story. One thing led to another, and I became disgusted with the expectations my ex-husband had of me and the continuity in not having my expectations and needs met. Long over short, we got divorced, and during my healing process, which included intense therapy, I found myself and therefore found my freedom. I know what I want and I know what I do not want. I don't want to be in a relationship. I do not want to be married right now. I love, love, love sex. She puts in all caps with no strings attached. I love sex without limitations. I want to be naked, free, adventurous. I want to try new things. I love oral sex. I know the positions that serve me. And she puts in all caps, I know what I want and like. I do not need to be convinced that there is something wrong with, I do not need to be convinced that there is something wrong with me or where I am at in life. I have never said I do not need a man. I am merely saying that I do not want that right now. I love dating multiple men, having casual relationships. I am honest about where I stand. I protect myself. I am very clear in my interactions with men and am often perceived as loose. I have been called a whore, as if my sexual freedom suggests I have no moral code. I am exhausted with having to defend my life choices. I am exhausted with men who tried to lock me down, even though I have been clear about where I stand. I even had a man ask me if I was molested or raped as a child because I love sex so much and did not want him to stay the night after sex. Like, really? So I have to have some type of sexual trauma to explain that this is who I am? All right. So she's writing in for feedback from this community, and I would love for us to get into this. So let's see what you guys are saying here. Let's see what you're saying here. Alkia says, I do think she needs to dig deeper in her why, and I do feel she still needs healing. Okay. I would love to hear more about that. Actually, and Marjorie says, I think she's doing what's good for her at this time. She shouldn't have to explain. Why is she concerned about their opinions? Just wondering, is she fully okay? With what she is doing. So we have two people that are questioning whether or not she is truly okay because she has this preoccupation with what people think. So that brings me to my next question, Alkia and Marjorie. When we have a preoccupation with what people think about us, what is that a sign of? Would you say that that is a sign of some type of emotional injury, a sign that there's something that we need to overcome in our lives when we are preoccupied with what people are thinking about us. So good. So there's a question here about whether or not she's fully healed. She says she found herself. She went through intense therapy. I'd love to hear what that looks like, because sometimes people use words and then they explain, yeah, I had like 3 intense sessions. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know how intense that therapy was if it was 3 sessions. I'm not saying that you cannot achieve breakthrough in 3 sessions. I just do understand that the depth of therapy is it's a lot deeper than what people understand. We're talking about redoing learned behavior, establishing new associations in your brain. We're breaking thought patterns. We are breaking behavioral patterns. There are some of us that cannot, commit to a fast or commit to a diet. Why? Because changing behavior is very difficult. And can you do that? Can you transform that in 3 sessions? I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that it's highly unlikely. So we really don't know what intense therapy looks like. I want to say this because she's coming in, she's writing it about pushback that she's getting about her liberal standing. What is this? Oh, okay. All right. Someone is messaging me about this on Messenger. I don't know if I can get to Messenger on here, but I will definitely make sure that I answer your question. That's good. Someone doesn't want to be seen. I guess they don't want their question on the feed, and that is fine. I will get back to you. So now she's getting pushback. She's writing it about this pushback. I think that we all have to be honest about the things that we are socialized about, right? The things that we have, the belief systems that we have that are rooted in socialization, right? So we are socialized to understand how men are supposed to behave and how they're supposed to think and how they're supposed to live. We are socialized to understand how women are supposed to live and think and conduct themselves. And so we are seeing that there's some socialism, that she's getting some pushback based on how the men that she has been interacting with have been socialized to believe how women are supposed to respond in relationships. And so what happens is that when there's some incongruence with what you believe and what you see, this incongruence sometimes, especially if we are not cognizant of it and we are not self-aware enough to address it and dig deep into it, for those of us who just operate in AutoZone, which is not a very healthy place to operate in, we will try to make assumptions or conclusions to resolve that incongruence. So an example of that is women are not to conduct themselves sexually this way. And the fact that she's conducting herself this way, we assume that she's not well, or we assume that there has to be some type of sexual trauma. This is what I'm talking about. And so we have to be careful with that, because that's all rooted in socializing and socialism, right? And how that is so powerful in our day-to-day interactions and what we're thinking and how it contributes to a lot of thoughts and belief systems that are rooted in misogyny and sexism. We have to be very careful with that. And so we have to be aware of our belief systems that have been socialized, and we should each have a personal responsibility to overcome that type of automatic thinking. And so here we are, we're talking about this socialized understanding of how men and women are supposed to respond. And here she is, she's free. This is what I want. Don't want you to stay the night. Bye-bye. And it's like, wait, this is not right. And so here these men are trying to make sense of why she responds the way she responds, as opposed to just accepting that this is where I stand, right? How many of us women have had to just accept that this is where a man is? Are we saying that, oh, he doesn't want to commit because he's been sexually abused as a child? No. But see how we kind of turn it around, and it has to be rooted in some type of, sexual trauma for a woman to be sexually free. We have to be careful with that. That's what fuels sexism, and that's what fuels ageism. That's what fuels racism. And we all have a personal responsibility to break that type of thinking. What belief systems do you have that you operate in that are socialized? Let's be real about that. And let's take personal responsibility to break that and reframe that. The next thing that I'm hearing is that there's a lot of bruised male egos, I think, that she's dealing with, right? Like men that are like, okay, there has to be something wrong with you if you don't want to commit to me. So here we have these men that are operating and protecting their ego, right? And there has to be something wrong with you. You don't want to commit to me, And I think that's really hard. I feel like, in her interactions, in her freedom, in her strength, she's confident. She says that she's thriving, she's achieved, she's certain. She calls herself certain. I don't know how many times I've heard that adjective. She calls herself certain. I know what it is I want. And I'm not sure how that's flowing with the men that she's choosing to allow into her personal space. So we summarize this. We talked about this one. Let me go to comments. Let me go to comments to make sure I didn't miss anything. Let me go to comments. Oh yeah, there's a lot. Let me go. Okay, so we have, let's see. Here we go. Oh, so we have Jackie. She says, "Hi, everybody." I have to read it from here. That was so funny. I had to actually stand up. So Jackie says, "I wouldn't consider her a freak. She just sounds like a confident woman who knows what she wants, so long as she's upfront and doesn't lead anyone in the wrong direction. She sounds like every confident, successful man that would not be judged." Come on, Jackie. She says, "To know what you enjoy sexually makes for a more pleasurable experience for her and her partner. Why have sex if you can't enjoy it? Why have sex if you can't enjoy it? Loving on herself and knowing how to get it from someone else is a gold mine. She doesn't sound broken. She does," and she goes on to say, she does now. If she says she's got STDs and is flaunting a dirty cookie, then that's irresponsible, LOL. And she didn't say that. As a matter of fact, she said that she protects herself. That's what she said in her question. Alkia says, "And you keep telling yourself you're okay, you'll start believing that you can't go beyond the barriers of your own mind." Oh yes, I know what that's like. When people have forced themselves to believe a lie. I'm good, I'm great, life is wonderful. And so again, we don't know just how healed she is, but also on the same note, we can't assume that her liberal position and her sexuality is rooted in some type of injury either. Jackie says, "Exploration is healthy. Discovery is healthy. Being suppressed is what causes more erratic behavior and can lead to more broken reactions and reception to sex. Just my opinion," and that's valuable. She goes on to say, "Commitment when you're not ready is what fuels breakups and heartaches. Then she'll be facing people telling her she's a floozy, jumping from relationship to relationship. She's upfront in her position and let it be that." That is so good. All right. So here we are. Is this right or is this wrong? And guess what? A lot of you have already pointed it out. There is no right or wrong. I think what we need to do here is take a look at possible dysfunction or maladaptivity. Are her behavioral patterns, are her choices adaptive or maladaptive? What does that mean? That means that we take a look at the level of dysfunction in the main areas of our wellness, in the main areas that we as humans function in. So are her choices, right? Are her choices negatively impacting her ability to grow intellectually? Are her choices impacting her finances? Are her choices impacting her career? Are her choices impacting her emotional health? Are her choices a manifestation of unresolved emotional injury? Are her choices negatively impacting the harmony in her family dynamics or exacerbating the lack of harmony? Are her choices in alignment or not in alignment with her spiritual beliefs? Right? We got to look at those main areas of life. Are her choices negatively impacting her socialization, her ability to enjoy leisure and recreation? Are her choices keeping her from connecting with strong support systems that are holding her accountable and speaking into her life and building her? These are the main areas of our wellness. We talk about them all the time, those main 8 areas. And if you want me to repeat them, I will. Those main 8 areas. Your alcoholism becomes a problem when we can take a look at how it's impacting in those areas. Your OCD-ness, let's take a look at how it's impacting in those areas. It's all about measuring the level of dysfunction. Some things we know, some things we don't know, right? And just based on what she's saying she went through intense therapy. Let's assume that she did. Let's assume that this is just where she is right now. She's not saying she'll never be married. She's just saying right now, that's not what I want. I don't want a relationship. I don't want you to stay the night. I need you to leave afterward. This is what she's saying. So is it wrong or is it right? I don't think any of us have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. It's not about right or wrong. It's about, is it adaptive or is it maladaptive? Is it serving you or is it working against you? And many of us are in our blind spots and cannot make that determination ourselves, which is why therapy and coaching and other accountability partnerships are very healthy to help us to really explore how our choices are truly impacting our lives. Sometimes things are good because you want them to be good. You want them to be good so bad you create it to be good when it's really not good. So this is why it is important. Therapy is important. Again, aligning yourself with a strong accountability partner that can help you determine, how is this truly impacting my life? Is there anything wrong with her sexual freedom, her liberal sexual nature? Well, it all talks, we just talked about it. What is the level of dysfunction? Is it negatively impacting the major areas of her life? And it doesn't seem, based on the little that we know, it doesn't necessarily seem like it is. Shantae here on Facebook says, it can be emotionally damaging. It may feel like freedom. Ooh, wait a minute. I know where she's going. I didn't even read the rest of it. I promise I didn't read the rest of it. I know where you're going with this, Shantae. Listen, guys, she says, it can be emotionally damaging. It may feel like freedom, but ultimately can create expectations in a serious relationship in the future. I'm not judging her at all. Your needs should have been met in your marriage. Our memories are our most treasured possessions. So even in the male mind, having many partners can really create false expectations in later serious relationships. So what she's talking about is the potential damage that this idea, this sexual freedom that we're talking about can cause, right? And so that's so good. That's creating some balance in this idea that, you know what, this is where you're at, you're being honest, great. And Shantae is saying, wait a minute, there can be some potential damage there. Now, I have personal positions when it comes to sex, and that has come with a lot of growth and spiritual development, where I believe that sex is best when it is in a container, and that container is marriage. That's not to say that it's wrong or right if you choose differently. That's just my personal take on it. The amazing thing about therapy is when you're aligning yourself with someone who's trained, who is truly an expert, we understand the importance of putting our opinions aside and working with where people are at. And this is where she is at. I would, of course, as a psychotherapist, do a deep dive, really take a look at relationship patterns, past injury, really take a look at her thought patterns, her behavioral patterns, really determine, are we looking at something that is truly a manifestation of someone who is healthy and making decisions that she believes are best for her life? And sometimes that's hard to do when you have these questions that come in because it lacks so much detail. Alkia says, that's great, Shantae. Thank you so much for your feedback. So listen, we talked about socialization, right? How we're socialized to believe a lot of what it is we believe. We talked about, I'm thinking that there's a lot of bruised male egos here when you are dealing with a very confident and strong woman that really doesn't necessarily need your attention as much as probably most women may. And so we're getting some pushback on this. We talked about wrong or right. It's not really about that. It's truly about really taking a look at the level of dysfunction, if any, looking at the negative impact, if any, in the major areas of life that we function in. So let's assume that all is well. Let us assume that all is well, that she truly had this intense therapy, that she's functioning well, that we're not looking at any type of unresolved emotional injury. Let's assume that. It's going to be very important. This is just my feedback to you, that you take time when you are considering the individuals who you are going to allow into your personal space, right? So taking time to get to know the individuals you are entering into these situationships with, because it's important that there's some equality, right? That there's some, that what you're looking for and what that other person is looking for is compatible. We have to make sure that there's some compatibility there. If you are dating conservative men and you have these very liberal positions, then that is going to cause you conflict. You're always going to be in a position where you're having to explain yourself, where you're being made to feel, well, actually, we are all responsible for how we feel, but you're going to often be in situations where you are feeling attacked or judged. So take your time. Make sure that you are connecting with people that have similar views, individuals who don't want a relationship just like you, who don't want the title, that don't want it. Now, I know that there may be people that start off that way. Things change. I get that. But taking the time to assure that the compatibility is there, that you have the opportunity to be very clear about where you stand. You're seeing some consistency in the person's behavior, right? So if you are saying you want the same things as me, but your behavior is starting, it shows something different, there's a different message there, then you have to pump your brakes. Now, usually people's true positions will manifest with time. So when we are not giving ourselves time to truly assess the compatibility of the people that we're even inviting into our space. And when I say invite into your space, when I'm sharing my time with you and I am dividing my attention with you, you're in my personal space. And before I make that decision, you will not get a slice of my time or an ounce of my attention. And so we have to understand how valuable our time and attention is, and is it really worth it? I would say take your time in your assessment process to make sure that the individuals that you're inviting into this space that we're talking about have compatible positions as you in terms of relationships, what they're looking for, where they're at in life. That's very important. So you're not coming into this consistent conflict. The next thing is, you talked about being in intense therapy, and it sounded like you worded that in past tense. I always encourage individuals to continue the therapeutic process as a preventive measure. I feel like most people feel that when they get therapy, it has to be because there's this pressing or presenting problem right now that I have to resolve right now. But therapy can be very preventive. Therapy can be that you're going in for once a month. I call them maintenance tune-ups, right? You go in for a mental maintenance tune-up with your therapist to make sure that you are talking. You're talking about your stressors, your challenges. You're talking about the amazing things that are going on in your life. It's very important that you continue that process. It doesn't have to be as intense, because you talked about intense therapy. It could be once every other week, once a month. You would make that decision with your therapist. But I would encourage you to continue that process, because you are at a place in your life. We don't want this to be some type of overcompensation for the things that you feel that you have lost, you know, especially in your marriage, because then it becomes something that's rooted in not the most healthy thing. We want to make sure that we are operating out of a place of power and wholeness, and that we're not operating out of a place of brokenness. And so sometimes when we're feeling free and we're feeling like, oh, I love life and I'm doing what I need to do, etc., if that's coming from a place of brokenness, it's going to end very unpleasant. And you're going to continue to attract undesired outcomes to your life. This is why it's important to ensure that we are truly whole and that we are operating out of a place of power. And so, writer, I encourage you, if you did stop, to continue the therapeutic process as a preventive measure to keep you well, to keep you strong. And as you said, your position may change over time, and to have that therapeutic support while you kind of change the trajectory of your life because your desires are changing, your attractions are changing, I think therapy is a good intervention to help support those changes and those transitions that we go through in our life. And the last, turn your frustration into action. We've talked about this before. This frustration that you have with, why do I need to be judged? I'm a woman, I'm sexually free, I'm liberal, this is who I am, hear me roar. I would say, take that frustration and turn it into positive action. There are so many organizations that are out there to empower women. There are so many ways that you can tear down the strongholds of sexism and all other isms in this world that keep us bound as a people. And so really take a look at that, being a mouthpiece. How can you empower women? How can you use the experiences that you have experienced to build other people and empower other people? I truly believe that it's about each one, teach one. And so how can you turn all of that frustration into action? All in all, you're saying, why do I need to be judged? Why should I be judged, or why am I judged for being sexually free? Why do I find myself explaining myself all the time? Why? Don't feel that you have to explain yourself to anybody. You know, I've had individuals come to me and say, oh, I always feel like I have to explain this or I have to explain that. I had someone who had some health concerns and would disclose that on date number 1. We gotta be careful what we choose to spend our energy in, right? And so if you find yourself constantly explaining yourself, it goes back to what someone said earlier. Where is that coming from? Do a deep dive to truly assess where that is coming from. And of course, it goes back to my recommendation that you take your time in aligning yourself with men, especially those men that you're going to allow into that personal space. This is when you are sharing your time and attention. Take your time to assure that compatibility is there to minimize conflict in the interactions that you have with men that you just want to have a situationship with and not a relationship with. Outside of that, if you're not experiencing shame or guilt, you're not completely out of alignment with your spiritual beliefs, your moral code, your values, if you're finding that there's alignment there, that you're not experiencing distress, you're not hurting others, you're being honest, you're taking care of yourself, you're taking a look at those 8 different areas on that wellness spectrum, and you're finding that there's little to no negative impact, then continue to thrive in what you're doing. Continue to hold yourself accountable to be better than you were yesterday. Continue to assure that you have a support system and accountability partnerships to cause you to continue to grow. And do not pay attention to the opinions of others. Bam, because that's who you are. You said that you were certain that you're thriving, that this is who I am. So continue to be that and do that. But if there's anything that we said here today that made you feel like, that HMMMMM that we sometimes encounter, that feeling, usually is that really little, still small voice on the inside of us saying, we need a little bit more attention to this matter. And that's okay. If there's anything that we said here today that made you feel like, well, maybe I need to look into that some more, that is okay. When we have learned to mask, quiet down, muffle, silence that small voice that's on the inside that says something is not quite right, we delay our freedom. Things that we could have worked out in our early 30s, a lot of us are dealing with in our late 30s, mid 40s, early 50s, right? Don't delay your freedom and don't delay your healing. There is nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong with identifying things about yourself that need to change. And listen, the reason why I didn't use the word improve, I've talked to you guys about how I feel about progress. Sometimes we get stuck and happy with progress, but progress does not necessarily mean change. And so if that is you, connect with me as you have www.ashshelley.com. You can email info@ashshelley.com. And that goes for everybody else who is on here today. If you heard something that made you feel like I may need some extra support in this area, email info@ashshelley.com. It doesn't have to be me. As a matter of fact, I am often referring individuals out to other therapists that are in this community, other therapists that are outside of the state, because I manage such a large caseload and there's so much demand on my time. But we will help you connect with a therapist that can help you with where you want to go. And so if that's any of you, email info@ashshelley.com for additional individual, group, or marital support. You can also submit your questions to info@ashshelley.com. You can also submit your questions on my website, www.ashshelley.com as well. Don't be afraid. We will maintain your confidentiality and ask the questions. Ask the most difficult questions. Ask. It's safe. You will not be revealed. We won't do a big reveal like, okay, such and such, thank you for your question. As a matter of fact, you can send in your question confidently on my website, www.ashshelley.com. So feel free to send in your questions and we will consider your questions to be highlighted on an Ask Shelley show. For those of you who want a speaker for your next event, you can do so by booking me at www.askshelley.com. Thank you for the support for those who have purchased my book. bit.ly/victorious marriages is where you can go to buy your copy. We just got another large shipment just this last Friday, and we are getting it together and getting the packages ready for all of you. I want to thank you again for all of your support. It has been absolutely amazing. It has catapulted me into book 2 and 3. So stay tuned for that. For those of you who enjoy YouTube, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ask Shelley, where you will have access to all of my videos talking about relationships, sex, depression, anxiety, how to manifest in the earth, how to truly assure that you are causing certain outcomes to manifest in the earth. We all have that power, but you have to be skillful in the way that you do it. Let's see what we have here. Oh, we have another comment here. This is from Jackie. Hi, everybody. I'm back here. And she says, I think she is in a stage. At some point, she will naturally move into another space. Today, this is where she is, but tomorrow could look different. Reasons for her words and actions only need to be truly explained to herself. And sometimes that takes introspection and time. Who knows? She could be overcompensating for something else. But in no way should she feel shame. Shame and guilt causes us to stay stuck. And so this is a season where it's important for us to be free, to be very self-aware about the things that need to change, right? It's good that you're giving yourself credit for the progress, but there are things that we just need to change, transform, overcome, break through, because 2021, expect the rain. Expect the rain. Expect greatness. Expect it to reign in your life. And so we are entering the last month. We have entered the last month of 2020. So hold yourself accountable. What are those things about your life that absolutely need to change in this season? Write them down, strategically plan with an accountability partner, and commit yourself to overcoming. That's what this is about. It's about overcoming. Thank you so much to the writer that wrote in. We love your power. We love your confidence. We love the fact that you shared your situation with us. For those of you, again, who are listening, make sure that you click that share button and just continue to spread the love. You never know who is going to hear this message and be thoroughly blessed by it. Every Tuesday at 12, I come on live. And so I thank you all for your support, your shares, your comments. It is an absolute blessing. I have an amazing PR team, and the things that they are doing behind the scenes to elevate this show for you is amazing. I cannot wait for 2021 and all that God is going to do through this platform. And it is all because of your support. Thank you for tuning in every week and being so amazing and so supportive. Thank you for your comments. And again, let's make sure that we are all holding ourselves accountable to being the best version of ourselves. Because the only competition that you have is who you were yesterday. Blessings upon blessings, and see you in a week.